the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation, with your hosts Kyler Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Lawrence Smith.
FCS Fans Nation. Nope. Stop. Done. I'm done. We are not doing the normal intro because I just got done eating an entire batch of crow served on a University of North Dakota Fighting Hawk plate and a Furman fork. Mr. Matthew Olson, I promised you last week that if UND was a top 10 team and kicked some jackrabbit butt, that I would give you credit. So here you are, sir. Congratulations to the University of North Dakota, as you are now a top team in the FCS. I will say this, though. I said one thing. You are not a top 10 team. And I was correct. You are a top 5 team in the FCS. Congratulations, Matthew Olson. I bow down to currently the number 4 incorrectly placed, because should be 3 team in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the FCS Fans Nation Podcast. I'm your unbiased bias and admin, as unbiased as you can be with that intro. Joined tonight by Kyler Neal. We got Mr. Chris Hammond and a special guest on the pod tonight, an outstanding gentleman we met down in Frisco. We've known on the page for a long time, representing the Dukes, Mr. Jamie Williams. Kyler, Chris, I know you guys are doing fine, so we're not even going to ask you guys because we've got a lot of questions tonight. But Jamie, how are you, my man? Welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling tonight?
Oh, I'm feeling good, guys. Thanks for having me. I know I've been giving y'all crap about not having been on here for the last year and a half. So, I guess I kind of finally wore you guys down. So thanks for having me. Replace the young millennial Lawrence, who does the wonderful graphics, with the old 40-year-old guy whose top 25 was posted as a screenshot snip from a spreadsheet in Facebook and Twitter. So you have really leveled down, guys.
Hey, you didn't put you and I above SDSU, so I really don't care what your top 25 was put on. So I'm going to rant
better than the originals, better than the officials.
I'm going to rant on that a little bit later in the show, guys. But hey, let's get it going. Tubbs at the club, Eagle Power Hour. I know you guys are doing good, so we're just going to run right into it because we actually have a ton of questions. The FCS is blowing up from what was one of the craziest weeks in FCS football. And credit to Mr. Matthew Olson and the other UND fans on our page. They are going to be our main topic to start tonight. And as you guys know, for any new listeners or for longtime listeners, our podcast is always driven by the fans of FCS Fans Nation. It's a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram page you can follow. If you like polite, good community feel, it's a good place to be if you're an FCS football fan. And the questions we received this week are outstanding. We're going to start off right with the first two. They're in that same UND category. We will start with Mr. William Lipp. He says, so is UND number 1? Are we going to pretend their wins were overrated teams, or are we going to quit messing around here? And then on top of that, Garth Rauschenberger wants to know, with UND having the easiest schedule in the going forward, outside of maybe that game in Fargo, should they be favored to win the rest of the games? And is UND the best team in the Dakotas? So to wrap up those questions, guys, is UND the best team right now? What do we think about them? And should we quit taking labels of North Dakota State, JMU, throw them aside and just admit that UND is number 1. Chris, what do you think, my man? You had a big win this week. You're feeling good, similar to UND fans. So what do you think about these comments?
Yeah, I said I didn't discount North Dakota having a shot last week. I didn't think they would win, but I said, we'll find out really soon what this team is about. I have them as my number 1 team in FCS Fans Nation. Strictly on, if you're looking on resume right now, they have the number 1 resume in the FCS. Now, if somebody else puts together a couple of top 15 wins, then maybe we can move them around and have some jumping. But right now, I have Weber State as my 2. They didn't really look overly impressive against Idaho State. I mean, they did exactly what they should have done, I guess. And then with James Madison just kind of having a bit of a hiccup last week, for me, it just seemed like the obvious choice to put UND 1 based off this far. I think Sam Herder put it in his playoff thing. Absolutely the best resume right now, 2 weeks into the season. Best team in the Dakotas, well, they got one of the 3 out of the way. They got South Dakota this week at home. And then they're going to Fargo on March 20th. We'll see. They got 2 more games to claim being the best team in the Dakotas, but after 2 weeks, they are.
And Jamie, tell me, am I wrong here when I tell you this, man? Why on earth, and this is seriously how I feel, why would I ever put James Madison right now above UND? If you took labels aside, I have 2 top 25 wins, one of them over SDSU, one of them over SIU, who crushed North Dakota State, which we don't really know what the Bison may be. But, you're a Dukes fan. You're very unbiased. You're a great person, obviously, on the page. So tell me, why would Weber or JMU even be close to UND? In my opinion, I put UND number 1 as well, because I stopped thinking about, well, they didn't do it in the past. I thought about, like, right now, they are currently looking like the best team. So what do you think as a Dukes fan, and what are you kind of looking at with that top 3? What's your respect for UND right now?
Oh, I've gained nothing but respect for UND. I think I looked at where I started in the fall to the spring to over the last few weeks, and I mean, they've just rocketed up from the 30s in the fall leading in before the season was canceled. I think I had them 23 coming in, 19, 14, and now I've got them at 3. Anybody makes an argument for them at 1, I'm not going to quibble with that argument whatsoever. Somebody makes an argument for Weber State at 1, not going to quibble with that argument. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. James Madison, we did what we were supposed to do in the second half. First half, not good. The defense did lock down after a couple of those turnovers to keep the Robert Moore score down. 20-point win, but 27 straight points. Just having JMU at 2 and Weber at 4, that's just kind of where I went with my 1-2 with North Dakota 3. But are they the best team in the Dakotas? They're going to have a chance to show us. They took it to the Jackrabbits last week. I have a feeling they're going to roll past South Dakota this week. To me, South Dakota is just a couple steps down from those top teams, even though they did beat an Illinois State team that I think we may talk about later that turned the ball over 7 times, and South Dakota could only beat them by 7. So I think they're just an echelon down. The big one's going to be in Fargo. They get the chance to prove that they're not just a hockey school and that they're here to play football in the Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. More than that championship in 2001. And I just got to say something real quick. I got to get this off my chest. I've been thinking all day about this. I've just been getting worked up over it. Okay, stats poll. Holy crap. How on earth is UND? First, let me say, I was born and raised to despise UND. 1989, Bison fan, born and raised, support the Bison, hate UND. Doesn't matter what their nickname is. That's it. So here comes the unbiased take, because all my fanhood aside, my buddy Landon has offered me free games at the Ralph to watch UND hockey. And I say, nope, I won't even step in there because I despise UND so much. But I'm defending their ass right now. This is such BS. I know you guys are aware that the stats poll put UNI at number 3 and UND at number 4. What on earth? Craig Haley works way too hard putting pollsters together to have that disrespect for him to have to post that. The absolute lack of knowledge to put UNI, who has beat Youngstown 20-0 and then lost to SDSU, above UND with 2 ranked wins. Like, this isn't the coaches poll where they legitimately don't have time. There's not even other football going on, and you as a voter can't take a look at those things. That is complete trash. UND, you're completely being disrespected, and I just think that's junk. And this is coming from an NDSU fan, and I am not the type who's like, support the state of North Dakota. The only state of North Dakota is North Dakota State. That's what I support. I don't care how football team outlooks or hockey schools look for our state as a whole. We got a lot of oil. We got a lot of agriculture. We'll be fine. So, and I still have to back UND here. That's just trash. Whoever's listening to this agrees with me, because I can't see your viewpoint if UNI should be ranked above them. For those of you who want to know what that rant's about, the current poll has UNI number 3, UND number 4. So, Kyler, any last thoughts here on UND? Should they be number 1? What's your perspective here on this current situation?
I agree with what every single one of you said. I think there's legit arguments for UND to be number 1, which is crazy because who would have ever thought UND would have any arguments to ever be number 1 in anything? Maybe I still have a little bit of Big Sky bias in me where I'm going, UND's not really number 1. But if you're looking at pure resume, if you're looking at what's happened the first 2 weeks, no one has done what UND's done. They haven't even really struggled. They actually beat the brakes off of SDSU in the second half. It wasn't competitive when you were watching the second half. Look what they did to Southern Illinois. They made Southern Illinois look just awful, who made NDSU look awful. Southern Illinois should have won 38-0 if it wasn't for two fluke plays, basically a garbage time TD and then a Hail Mary. So if you're looking at pure resumes, UND has the best pure resume. But I get what Jamie's saying. JMU has been in the title the last 3 or 4 years. When North Dakota State loses, they're kind of that next man up. I think Weber actually looked better than what Chris is saying, because it was really 42-7 going into the fourth, where the game was over. And then they were like, what are we going to do now? We don't have to really play anymore, and we're still going to dominate. I mean, all three teams, they do have arguments in their own sense. It's really, who do you think is the best team, or who do you value? Who's going to be the best team moving forward, or who do you think has the best resume? Those are kind of the differences on why you would rank each one of them number one. And I see each one, but hats off to UND. Now, do I think it lasts? Probably not. It's UND, but right now they do have the best resume by far. Seconds close, or seconds not even close in terms of resume.
My thing to kind of bounce off that with, will it last? One of those questions with Garth is, will they, kind of continue to win out? Is I hear so many Bison fans saying the same thing. Damn, they're winning like NDSU. Those lines take over in the third, fourth quarter. The running game sets up the pass. The defense is fast. So I hate to admit it, but they're playing good ball. So kudos to you, UND. We'll get to some more you later in the podcast a little bit. So Jamie, these next two, man, I'm going to throw to you right away because we're going into a JMU category. 2 questions, one from Dustin Helton, one from Joe Goss. Dustin Helton, obviously a great SFA fan, and Joe for Delaware. Dustin wants to know why JMU shouldn't be the top-ranked team in the nation. He's not asking a question. He's stating a fact. That's what Dustin's telling you. And and then Joe wants to know, can you justify a school getting a top seed without even playing a top 25 team, even if it is James Madison? So, Jamie, what do you think about your Dukes right now? Clearly, we all know the schedule is going to be simpler moving forward, but can we justify the seed at the end, where in the past we've thrown Jacksonville State and Kennesaw to the side on easier schedules? What do you think for this season?
I mean, if the Dukes don't go 8-0, we don't even deserve to be in the playoffs. Let's be real. We've got Elon twice, Richmond twice, William & Mary twice. Elon 2 weeks ago looked like a pretty solid, tough matchup. They lost Davis Cheek for the year. They struggled against Davidson. They lost their second-string quarterback last week, and Gardner Webb whooped them. So there goes any chance that James Madison has of any positive strength of schedule. It's the same point I made the other day. James Madison in 2016 got the 4 seed over Sam Houston, who got dropped to 5 because of the strength of schedule. If James Madison goes 8-0 and Weber goes 6-0, like they should, and if North Dakota goes even 7-1, I mean, we might have to be the 3 seed, and that's okay. You can't talk out of one side of your mouth and expect something different when your team is the one with the weak schedule. But I will throw some defense of us on Saturday's game. Cole Johnson did not look very good in the first half. He threw 3 horrible interceptions. I felt like all game he was just staring down whichever receiver he was going to throw to, and Robert Morris was ready for it. They had a great game plan. However, on the 9 points off of turnovers, we allowed -1 yard. So we knocked them back 4 yards. They had to kick a field goal. The other was a 2-yard drive because we knocked him down at the 2. Play had to be reviewed, but they got the call right. They punched it in for a touchdown. Then scored 27 straight points. Signetti told them to stop admiring their own stats and their own paperwork, stop reading the headlines and play ball. And hopefully it was a wake-up call, and we'll see moving forward as we get into CAA play. Were they reading their headlines, or are there some real flaws in this team? And even if they go 8-0, if they're squeaking by teams, they're not going to be the 1 seed. They're not going to be the 2 seed. And us as a fan base are going to have to deal with it and prove it in the playoffs. That's when we're going to see the good teams that we're going to play. We're not going to see anybody until then.
So, Chris, let's play some hypothetical. Let's say Idaho runs the table, right? You guys run the table, and let's say you're opposite side of James Madison in the bracket. 1 and 2, let's just go with. despite the easier schedule, despite what would be perceived as an easier schedule for James Madison, are you hoping to see JMU and Frisco and be like, yeah, they've been overrated the whole time? Or are you hoping they slip up? Like, what would your gut feeling be there as a hypothetical?
Well, obviously, if they make it to Frisco, they're pretty good. And I guess that's kind of my point to kind of go off of what Joe asked there at the end. I think you got to take this like the FBS thing. I know it gets a ton of hate when they do their last four in, especially with seeding 4. But the 4 seeds should not be based off resume. Resume should be all those at-large bids. If you have an automatic bid or whatever and you're getting seeded, it should be the best 4 teams. I think at that point, resume aside, JMU, if they look like a top 4 team, even with their easy schedule, they should be a seed. The problem is, if they're only beating a team like Robert Morris by 20, that doesn't look like a top 4 team to me. So that would be my answer to that. I have no problem with an easy schedule like a Weber State, who has an extremely easy schedule. If they win out and they look like the 4th best team in the country, I'm all for it. I guess it doesn't matter. I think if you're in the seeded part of the bracket, that should just be the top 4 teams. And I'm going to trust that's what the playoff committee is going to do. Do I think a team like JMU might come in a little overrated, or Weber a little overrated because of strength of schedule? Possibly, but that's why the committee has their job, is to guess how much of it is overrated and how much of it is factual. And I mean, unfortunately, we're not on the committee, so we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of my perspective is what happens with James Madison. Just like I've said this in the past, it's not new to my opinion on the podcast. What happens when adversity strikes against the better team? Because it's amazing what happens mentally to a team. And you've seen that with Sam Houston's or others in the past. Sorry, Bearcats, I got your back this year. So, just let me use you as a bad example in the past. Once they hit something like a wall, like they've never seen before after 8-9 games, mentally that just crushes you almost. And it's like everything falls apart. So that's going to be on the coaches and everybody else with the Dukes to keep their macho up. And they're not going to be much different than the Weber State, who also is going to play a weaker schedule. Really, anybody outside the Valley. They're not going to be different than Jacksonville State. They're not going to be different than Kennesaw. So it will be interesting to see. Kyler, I have the next question for you, my man, because I know you are a strong viewer, as Mr. Brandon Owens, a Jacksonville State Gamecock and a previous host or guest on our show. He wants to know, JSU has seemed to find a good running game with the passing game having its moments, but not stellar right now. What do you make of this Jacksonville State team? Wow, running game going and passing not being stellar. That is the theme of the spring season, I think. So, Kyler, what do you think after you were watching that game? I saw you on the game threads commenting back and forth with some Gamecock fans.
Yeah, I think the Gamecocks overall look pretty good compared to what they were last year. I think having that little bit of extra practice in the fall is definitely going to benefit them through the OVC. Now, again, it's kind of what it is every year in the OVC. How good is the OVC until we see them in the playoffs? I mean, that's kind of the downfall about how good the OVC is, how good the SoCon is, how good the Southland is outside of, Sam Houston that was able to do some runs. Right now, Jacksonville State can look as good as they want. Until they start performing in the playoffs, I don't know how good they truly are. And that's kind of my big take for every team. So right now, I think Jacksonville State does look improved. I think they have a way better quarterback with Zion than they do with, Cooper. I think Cooper makes a lot of bad decisions. He doesn't put the team in a lot of winning aspects. Now he's more athletic. He has a stronger arm. He has all the intangibles that would make him a better quarterback. But in terms of who do I want leading my team right now, give me Zion over Cooper. I think he's going to put Jacksonville State in a better opportunity to win the game just because he limits his mistakes. He makes smarter decisions. So right now, I think Jacksonville State looks good to run the OVC, and then we'll just have to see what happens when they actually get to face, some playoff caliber teams.
Whoa, Kyler, whoa. We're talking about actual FCS and Jacksonville State, not Tampa Bay with Jameis Winston and Tom Brady. We're not talking about that situation. So, yeah, just to get you back on track. Yep.
Oh, my bad. No, man. I think Jacksonville State is solid right now, and they will continue to be solid until the playoffs. And then we just got to see what happens with them, man. But overall, if I'm a JSU fan, I'm happy with how the season's played out so far.
And the interesting thing is, like, because of how this is playing out, where, I mean, just chaos is erupting and we don't really know what to expect, there is no like one or two where you're like, absolutely. In my mind, I'm like, why couldn't Jacksonville State win the championship this year? Why couldn't Idaho finish out 6-0 and make a run? I mean, like, there's just, with UND up there and NDSU looking terrible, I mean, it's just an absolute chaos. It's more fun, is it not? Who's not having at least a little more fun thinking about this every day during your workday? Is this not just a blast? No, Kyler shakes. Okay, Kyler's an Eastern Washington fan, so he shakes his head no. All right, guys. So we have a question now from a JMU Duke fan. His name is Jamie Williams. He's a good contributor to our page. Jamie, should I read it, or do you got it memorized?
I hate that guy.
Oh, I think it was just the SoCon question.
It is the SoCon question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found out last week about the SoCon, man, and you hooked us up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk about the SoCon, and I think we can tee this up to have somebody send crow to everybody who blasted him a couple weeks ago. So what do we make after Wofford and Furman both lose? So who is the best team in the SoCon? Who is it? I bet it ain't Furman, right, Kyler?
Yeah, it's absolutely no one. Everyone in the SoCon is trash. I mean, let's hear it. Let's go for another Kyler rant just because SoCon John Hopper and all of these other SoCon people are saying it was undeserved rants about Furman. No, right now the SoCon has regressed the last few years. They look like they are regressing again. I'm just joking when I'm saying everyone's trash, guys. You still have a couple solid programs. Don't get it twisted. I'm just joking. But my rant was accurate. Furman is not a top 10 team. And right now, the SoCon just does not have a top 10 team. I don't think they have a top 15 team. We will see if they have a top 25 team at the end of the spring season. But it's going to be a dogfight. So at least if you're in a conference, you want to be a part of some type of dogfight team where anyone can win the conference and anyone can get in the playoffs. That's what we're looking right now in the SoCon.
Yeah, you have ETSU and VMI and Chattanooga all at 1-0 in conference play, sitting at the top right now. I don't know many people that would have predicted that. So does anybody have a hunch of maybe who comes out of the SoCon right now with some strength? And yeah, I got to eat crow because I backed Furman like crazy, like I always do. Kyler was right. Matthew Olson was right. Everybody's right. So, I mean, I just don't know. I can still see Wofford pulling it off. Like it seems like Wofford has had bad losses in the past in the SoCon, and that team and that program, a quality SoCon program, always seems to bounce back. So, I mean, if Furman's just going to be a letdown for me right now, if you had to make me pick, I'm going to pick the team in the past that has lost a game, lost 2 games, and still won the auto bid for the SoCon, and I'm going to go with the Terriers of Wofford. So,
I think,
what do you think, my man?
Chattanooga and Furman still have a chance.
Everyone does.
Yeah, and Wofford's barely out. No, we still have 3 SoCon teams in the top 25. Like, let's cool down the SoCon hate. I will admit, the guy who put us on blast last week, Matt, for not asking or not talking about them, and it's just like you're at the very beginning, you do an intro. Everything's driven by fan questions, and I don't know if that person even asked a question this week, but like you can't hate on it. So thank you, Jamie, for saving the SoCon. Because the SoCon people apparently don't actually want to hear about their conference. They just want us to like naturally talk about it. I don't know. But
I wouldn't want to hear about it if I was them either.
Yeah, I think Chattanooga is going to have a shot. And honestly, I don't think the Furman game is really indicative of how the season's going to go. I still think the Paladins will end up okay. But yeah, they're probably only getting 1 bid into the playoffs now. There's no way Wofford and a Furman are sneaking in. They're probably a 1-team bid unless these guys go on huge runs. But the problem is, with no out-of-conference schedule, they're only going to beat each other up more. And with the way the perception is, unfortunately, of the SoCon, they're going to say, well, only 1 good team won against a couple of okay teams and then, a couple bad teams.
Well, just because we can keep receipts, I'm just going to go with the team in my state because I think VMI might have found a defense. And they have the best offensive player in the conference. Reese Udinsky, their quarterback, who was playing in the spring and will be transferring to Maryland as a grad transfer in the fall, is, to me, the best offensive player in that conference. If VMI has any defense, they can make some waves. So,
and just to save myself from blackmail, I know I texted Lawrence Smith back when the fall season looked like it was going to happen and said I thought Mercer could be a sleeper team. So I'll at least throw out there that I still like the Mercer Bears, baby.
There you go. We have mixes all over the place. We just know Kyler's not picking Furman. I'm eating crow for that. And Jamie, yeah, I like that. That's good intel, man. VMI, if they found a defense, that's a really good call with the quarterback play. It's hard to find the high quality quarterback at the FCS level that's going to continually help you win games and overcome things. And they may have something down there in VMI. So good call, my man. Let's get into another program that right now people may be questioning and some are praising. We're going to go to Nichols, gentlemen. We have two questions, one from Jamie Williams once again. Jamie, we set this up. You set this one up good for us. We also have Shane Klebert, who is a huge Nichols fan. Shane, I saw all 5 of your questions, my man. I wish we had time for them all tonight. Unfortunately, we don't. I love the fun fact about how many players from Louisiana are on your roster. Shout out to you, Shane. I appreciate the questions. We're going to cover your team right now, my man. So 2 of these questions, guys. Nichols has 2 dominant wins over severely inferior opponents. Are they a real contender, or are they doing what's expected? Shane, of all his questions, I really like this one. Has Nichols entered top 5 discussion yet, or will it take until next week's matchup versus Sam Houston to solidify a position as a true national contender? And looking at what Nichols did, you're looking at an 87-3 win over Lincoln University of Missouri, and then a 55-0 blanking of Lamar. So I'm just going to give my 2 quick takes because I think you guys got some good opinions on this. But my quick takes are, do what you're supposed to do if you're supposed to win by a lot. So if you're playing a super inferior opponent, you're supposed to beat them 55-0, 87-3. So they're doing what they're supposed to do on their current schedule. And when you're looking at actual Nichols being top 5, in our top 5 poll, I did not have them up in the top 5. I actually fringed them right out of top 10 because I preferred Sam Houston beating C-Law last week. Because I was like, all right, good ranked win, close game, big offensive explosion. So absolutely, Shane, that's my opinion on your question. If they go in and they beat Sam Houston, that's the point where I'm like, wow, okay, they're blanking 2 inferior opponents, and now they just got that ranked win against what a Bearcats team a lot of people like. And that's where I'm going to start moving Nichols up into that top 5, 6, 7 position. But hopefully somebody else maybe gives you some better news, because any information I say based off last week is probably false. So Kyler with the head nod, what do you think, my man? Is Nichols a team you're going to respect at this point?
Yeah, I mean, good teams destroy bad teams. That's kind of what's happening right now. I mean, Nichols has outscored someone like their 2 opponents 130 something to 3. I mean, good teams destroy bad teams. And here's the deal. The other question was, is Nichols a true contender, or are they top 5? Outside of JMU, Weber, and UND right now, every other FCS team is potentially a top 5 team and potentially not a top 5 team because of all the chaos. And so Nichols right now, I think I put them at 5 or 6, right around Sam Houston. They're going to play each other. They're going to see which one's a contender, which one's potentially a pretender. But I mean, as of right now, put whoever you want in the top 5. You know, after those 3 that mentioned, you can really make arguments for almost pretty much any team who has at least have 1 win. It's going to be a crazy season. Do I think these teams are going to last? I have no clue, but let's I guess say before we know they're a true contender, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're going to play Sam Houston. That's going to prove any doubts. Whoever wins that is probably going to run the rest of their conference, the rest of their schedule, and they will get one of those top 5 teams in the playoffs or something like that. So then it'll just be who wins the playoffs, who's really a true contender, because no one played an out-of-conference schedule. I mean, not a lot of teams played a true out-of-conference schedule. We don't know a lot. That's kind of the thing. We just don't know a lot. But Nichols, their offense looks good. Their defense looks good. They're playing inferior opponents. We just don't know, but they're doing what they're supposed to do.
This stuff is way harder when we don't have like 2 top teams where we're like, well, yeah, they're good, but they're not as good as those 2. That's just, we had such a cop-out line back in the day. And we just have no cop-outs now. It's either you got to go with your gut on what a team's like, and they're going to prove you wrong in the next couple of weeks, or they're going to prove you right. So, Jamie, you got a hunch with Nichols there. You did ask the question, so they've been on your mind. What do you think about that squad, who also played NDSU really well last year in the playoffs? What do you think, my man?
I feel like that's one of those teams that's taken that next step, and they're going to get a chance to prove it. They've got to beat Sam Houston. If they want to be considered a contender, they have to beat Sam Houston. I think the Southland Conference's top teams are strong. The Southland is that 4th conference right now before they break off into the WAC and the A-Sun. But right now, with Southeastern Louisiana, with Sam Houston, which those 2 just played a phenomenal game, and Nichols just destroying everybody. They're a top 5 team. I've got them at 5. They can stay there by beating Sam Houston. If they lose to Sam Houston, they're probably still a top 10 team, and they're probably looking to get an at-large because there's going to be 2 Southland teams in the playoffs. I would lean towards it being the 2 that we're talking about, Nichols and Sam, and then we'll just see which one of those teams comes out on top next week.
Heck yeah. Yeah, Nichols, keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to see what happens with Sam Houston next weekend for sure. All right, Chris, you put NDSU at number 3, while pretty much the entire nation put them at number 1. So Mr. Amos Fawcett wants to know, and I apologize if I butchered your last name and any other last names. Trust me, I know it's bad. Is this the end of NDSU dominance in the FCS? So rocking the Eastern Washington NDSU shirt from the Natty. Chris, you get the start on this one, my man, because you were probably one of the only ones that didn't have NDSU ranked number 1. What do you think? Thoughts on that game, and is it the end of the dominance?
So as I was one of the only people that did not have North Dakota State number 1 entering the season, I also am one of the few people that apparently is not absolutely burying them right now. I believe in my FCS Fans Nation poll, they're either 4 or 5. I think I have them at 5 because I still had SDSU as my 1 or 2. I'm getting confused here over the week. So I still have that logjam right there of UND, SDSU, and NDSU in my poll. And it will sort itself out. And that's why with the Nichols question, because I have them at 7. That stuff's going to work itself out. Everything's going to work itself out. But right now, I still have faith. It's NDSU. There's no way I'm going to start doubting them now. Yeah, Zeb Nolan doesn't look awesome right now, but a lot of quarterbacks have looked rusty, especially when, as I've covered a couple times now on this show, he didn't really get the reins of this program until like November because Trey Lance still had a showcase game. So it's still going. Is it what you want to see? No. Do they make a run at Frisco this year? I still think they probably will. And is the dominance of the SCS over? I still said at the beginning of this, I thought Quincy Patterson was the guy next year. So I think they're still going to be really good next year. I think they had a weird thing with Jabril Cox transferring out, a couple dudes now prepping for the draft with having like basically a fake season in the fall for 1 game and losing natural seniors and transfers. I think this had a lot of things stacking up against them early in this year. And they are the team I have the most faith in to figure it out down the stretch here. Now, is there a run of dominance over in the FCS? I mean, I hope NDSU fans did not think this was going to be 20, 30 years. It just doesn't happen in college sports, unfortunately. No team dominates quite like NDSU did. What they have done is so unprecedented. Yeah, I think the end of dominance is probably coming to an end. Does that mean they're going to stink? No. Is it maybe now they only make the championship once every 2 years instead of every year? Probably more likely for a little bit because I think they are that much better and better set up as a program than so many schools right now. And they still have a lot of good pieces working for them. But yeah, are they going to win 8 of the next 9 or 10 straight? No. This year, I won't put a condo on it, but maybe like a Razor scooter that they'll make it to Frisco.
Yeah, that Quincy Patterson thing, I think, is unique. A lot of people insult his throwing ability, but the big issue now is, number one, let me just say this. That was a team loss on Saturday. I mean, NDSU in every aspect of the game got dominated. There's no question. Matt Entz put it out there. He said everything exactly what NDSU Bison fans are feeling, which is the team got crushed. Offensive, defensive line, all those things. But I think I'm standing firm on this, and I'll eat crow. I think Southern Illinois watched the game film from last year. And if you guys don't remember, that was the last game of the season for NDSU. And NDSU won. You can fact check this. It was like 21-7 or 21-10 or something. It was close going into the 4th. And there was a singular difference. And it was Trey Lance ran all over him. Not all over him, but he made the big runs, the big breakouts that. I bet SIU looked at that film, looked at Zeb Nolan, and said, not a threat at all. Play the same style of game. And 38-14 happens. Bison fans are hopeful right now, but Zeb Nolan looks terrible. He does not look good. And he's not the reason we lost that game Saturday, but Youngstown, it was pretty obvious the same problems are there. We'll see what he looks like against Missouri State, But outside of one Hail Mary throw at the end of a halftime, NDSU has 0 passing touchdowns. I am watching a quarterback looking at one read and then the world collapses. A quarterback with no ability to run. 4 attempts minus 3 yards on Saturday. Oh, and we saw Cam Miller, a freshman, come in for 2 snaps. When's the last time in North Dakota State they tried a double quarterback thing at all? No, they stick with their guy. I'm just saying, if Zeb Nolan doesn't improve, which I don't think he will, you're a 5th-year senior. You've been around a long time. This whole with the program thing, you've been practicing. You know things. NDSU is definitely not winning a national title in the spring. I think with the young recruited talent, I think they have outstanding classes coming up. I think what we have on the roster is really good. It's just youthful. Give me Quincy Patterson in the fall and all the roster we have now. Phoenix Sproles back at wideout and just some growth in the spring. But with Zeb Nolan, they're not going to win a national title this year in the spring. And if people are saying, well, then why don't you go to one of the freshmen or redshirt freshmen you have, Cam Miller or Logan? Well, that just speaks that they're not ready, because not every freshman or redshirt freshman is the SDSU quarterback or Trey Lance. So we'll see what happens in the future. But right now, no national title for NDSU because they are one-dimensional offensively. Stop the run. Zeb Nolan won't beat you. So there you go. Bring on the hate, because I'm a bad fan for pointing out something everybody in the Dome is talking about but won't say on a podcast. So, Jamie, Kyler, am I wrong? Does NDSU still have a shot? What do you think?
I mean, for the spring, I don't think so. I think South Dakota State is a more balanced team. But at the same time, kind of like Chris was saying, doubt NDSU at your own peril, because they've proven time and again. I think you called it out. Carson Wentz goes down. You're 4-2. Season's over, right? No, here comes Easton Stick, and the streak continues. I do think the fall, more likely with Quincy Patterson, with Sproles coming back, some of that depth is going to be there. I saw the 2 deep that you posted the other day, Matt, where you had crossed everybody out. Even North Dakota State, at some point, there's diminishing returns. You're going to lose enough depth that you can't just replace it immediately. They're going to reload. They're not rebuilding. They will reload, but not this spring.
Yeah. To jump on that dominance before I hit you, Kyler. No, dominance isn't over. They will not going to be as, the odds of another 8 out of 9 is ridiculous. But I mean, the recruiting classes for NDSU, look at other FCS on like some signing days where it's like, we got 7 or we got these guys for the first signing class, and NDSU has 24. Like, they've got their guys, they're filled. Cole Payton from Nebraska, exactly where Easton Stick came from, is the next quarterback. Bryce Lance, Trey's brother's coming for wide receiver. These things are up and coming. So the recruiting is going to be good. Every couple of years, they'll be national title contenders. If not every year, at least top 10. So dominance isn't over, Amos, from my perspective. But for the spring, I don't see it with Zeb. The only way I see it is if a quarterback change is made and that quarterback can either run or pass to move the offense in a more balanced direction. So, Kyler, sorry, man, I cut you off. Your final thoughts here on NDSU before we hit some quick questions?
Yeah, so instead of just giving my thoughts, let's play a little game here with Matthew Frazee, the unbiased Bison. Okay.
Cool.
NDSU, of course, they dominated 8 out of 9. They absolutely tore up the FCS last year. We'll never see that again. I don't care with what that was. Like Chris said, unprecedented. We will never see that again. But let's play a game. Like I said, Matthew Frazee, North Dakota State. How did they look in 2007 and 2008? Pretty damn good, right?
Yeah. 10-1, 10-1.
10-1. A couple FBS wins. How did they look in 2009?
2009 never happened.
Exactly.
I don't know what you're talking about. They definitely went 3-8. They definitely went 3-8.
And then we saw, what did we see? The decade after just one bad season. Guess what? That happens to every single team. I don't care who you are. Only Montana does not have a losing season in the last 30 years. Eastern Washington doesn't since 2006. Guess what? I don't care who you are. The great programs still have bad seasons. Like Jamie said, you're replacing quite a bit of people. We saw the 2 depth. We knew that was happening. It happens to every single team. No one is above that. Now, let me ask you another question, Matt, because maybe this is a little bit of...
It was in my mind I got to cut you off a little bit. It was in my mind as you said it. I was like, 2008, 2006, 2007, they were 10-1. 2008, I think they were a little above 500. 2009, 9 was the 3-8 really bad year.
Okay.
Then
But
10 was
you
Eastern. So
you
I just
understand
want
what I was
everyone to be
saying
like,
there. Yeah.
yeah. In my
You
mind,
got
I'm
it.
like,
But you
oh,
understand what I was But you understand what I was saying. But now here's my other question. Let's play another game.
Yep.
Remember that one time when North Dakota State lost to Missouri State, bottom feeder? What did North Dakota
Indiana State, right?
Indiana State, same thing. They're both bottom feeders, but you know my point. What happened that year when they won, or what happened that year after they lost to that game?
Yes. Are you talking 2011 Brock Jensen losing to Indiana State in 2011?
Sure.
They won the title that year.
Okay, so here's the thing. Are we ever going to see another decade like what we saw with NDSU? No. Are all of us potentially overreacting? Yes. Zeb Nolan does look awful, though. He does not look like a good quarterback. He can't throw. He can't make good reads. He's not fast. He's not athletic. He's not your typical NDSU quarterback. I think we are going to see potentially a 2009 type season from them, but they're probably going to still finish above 500 because it's NDSU and they have the pieces. But just because they get curb stomped one game out of the year, does not mean this dynasty is over. Like Chris said, maybe we're not going to see them every single year in the postseason or in the championship game. We probably still will in the postseason. Maybe we only see them in Frisco every other year or 2 out of 3 years. Whoop-de-doo, But it's guess what? No team is above bad games. No team is above unfortunate seasons. Not one of them. So guess what, guys? This is just potentially maybe a roadblock in a season that they're going to learn and take over. Like Chris said, he wouldn't be surprised to see him in Fresco. I don't think we will. I don't think they're good enough this year. But watch out in the fall. They're probably going to be pretty freaking good. So,
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is.
You heard it there, Fargo, North Dakota. When you're in Frisco, I'm the guy you're buying beer. I still believe in you. These guys have given up. So I drink Rainier and Montucky's. Just keep it in mind.
Montucky makes them pass out.
No, day after Montucky.
We'll see what happens with NDSU. The thing is now what happens after the loss, It's either continue to fall down or you bounce back. And this is the crazy thing. The crazy thing is with one loss, with the Valley teams, unlike others, NDSU can beat UND, beat SDSU. They can win the Valley still. And then who knows what happens. I think a QB change or massive improvement needs to happen for that to occur, though. But we're not just going to talk about the Bison tonight. Hopefully that helped you out, Amos. And we will roll on. Quick hit question, guys. We are going to roll through the rest of these. There's actually a few folks we're not going to get their questions to. I'll still give them a shout out. But we'll keep these answers, about a minute and a half and kind of keep them more individualized. Starting with Mr. Brandon Anderson here, though. Actually, there's like 3 different questions I'm going to combine here, guys. Seth Meyer, Hall Jones, Brandon Anderson. What tool did you guys use to make your top 10 25 lists? A paper and a hat, a blender, C4, or other? How many shots of Quavo were necessary to finalize your top 25 this week? And Seth Meyer, I have a blanket question that covers about 10 teams. WTF is going on? So these 3 can all be kind of summed up, guys. How much trouble did you have and what tool did you use to do your top 25? I'll ask all you guys. Myself, I used a sticky note and a lot of confusion. So Kyler, what'd you use for your top 25, top 10 this week?
I just put every single participating team. I ripped up little sheets of paper, put them on the floor, and had my dog pick out the last 10. That's about what it looked like.
Oh man, Jamie, what you're an actual official stats voter, aren't you?
Yes. Yep.
And you put UNI behind UND, is that correct?
Oh yeah, UNI's down the road a little bit. They're even behind South Dakota State. Imagine that.
Whoa, crazy!
I know.
Bold
I use one of those bingo things where the balls just kind of bounce up and down. I picked a team and I just hit the little button and whatever number came up, that's what they got. But I think mine wound up pretty good. With my spreadsheet, I kind of keep up with 1 through what we've got 92 just to kind of make sure I can put my eyes on everything. But yeah, it kind of felt like I was throwing him at a bingo machine. That's for sure.
Yeah, but he got some of the basic stuff right. Give this man a pay raise there. Stats. Here we go, Chris. What do you think, man? How'd you do your top 25?
My eyeballs. My top 10 was actually like relatively still intact, other than South Dakota State losing, which they're still in my top 10. The only thing that happened was I put Jackson State in as kind of like a frisky little give them a reward because I was only putting teams that had played in previously. Their game was postponed. I put a couple other teams that slipped up due to people not playing. I don't think I had a single team lose last week that got kicked out of my top 10. So people just vote with your eyeballs, not what you've known off history. Watch the games.
That's good. That's a good take, man. Not off history. I like
watch
that.
the games. You cannot put NDSU in your top 4, though. That's the thing, Chris.
They're number 5.
Well, same thing. So now you got to use your history, which you just told people not to use. If you use your eyeballs, North Dakota State is not an FCS team this year. But
I got them at 11.
That's going to change next week.
Yeah, if they have trouble against Missouri State, yeah, they're out of that top 25.
Whoa, Bobby Petrino, let's go.
Yeah. All right, guys. Jeremiah Rash. Congratulations, Jeremiah. He is a proud SIU fan, probably the best one on a contributor on our page. Kudos to you, man, and your squad. From an NDSU fan, you guys punched us in the mouth. Enjoy the win. Enjoy the Sports Center. Well done. You got a great coach, good program down there. So, and I wanted your safety for the Cowboys in the draft last year. The Valley is such a mess right now. Where would you guys rank the Valley teams as of right now? He wants just the top 3. Like, how would you rank those? I've backed them up. I'm going to go UND. I would say, sorry, Jeremiah, I'm still going to go with SDSU. I like their defensive line. I like a little bit more of a balance despite the butt kicking we just saw. So I'm going to go UND, SDSU, and then I put SIU right there at number 3. So what do you think, Jamie? How would you rank the Valley team, at least the top 3 right now?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. UND, they've done it. They've shown it. That's what my eyeballs see, just to take Chris's term. Yeah, South Dakota State, they're really balanced. The freshman quarterback looks good. The 2 twin wide receivers, good luck covering them in Valley defensive backs. And then Southern Illinois, I mean, yeah, they got beat by North Dakota, but they put a whooping on the Bison. They deserve to be right where they are. It's their moment in the sun, and we'll see if they can keep it up, or are they going to falter as they get down the stretch?
Yeah, getting beat by UND might be the new getting beat by NDSU in the spring. Doesn't matter much. So, Kyler, Brandon Owens wants to know, how much weirder is this season going to get? Give me an honest hot take on how much weirder we're going to see things go.
Maybe for, the next couple of weeks while teams are still trying to learn and adapt. Some teams weren't even practicing, the week before the game started kicking off. So I think, like always, it's going to finally adjust itself. Now, maybe it's not going to be perfect or what we've seen the last few years or really the last decade where there's been 8 of the same top 10 teams almost every single year. But I think we saw about as weird as it's going to get. I think it's going to self-correct itself at least somewhat, So I don't anticipate it getting any weirder than it already was. It's gonna start to normalize real soon.
Cool. Brett Sheffield, guys, wants to know, are the playoffs really that wide open, or will things settle? If not, how do we separate out the one-loss teams? How do you think the committee goes about that, guys, with one-loss teams? And what do you think, Chris, man? Settled? Wide open? How's this thing looking?
Wide open, because really every game counts this year more than any other year in the past. How you settle one-loss teams? Eyeballs.
There you go. Don't rely on the history. Use the eyeballs. Jamie, you asked this question, so we're going to have to answer for you, man. Weber put up 600 yards of offense, but gave up 400 on defense. Which is more likely to continue? I got to apologize, guys. I missed that game because I was doing a little bit of snowboarding out in Colorado. So for Kyler, what do you think, man? You're a Big Sky guy. I know you're the most knowledgeable Big Sky person on this podcast. You're the biggest Big Sky fan. So
sorry, Chris.
I got to ask
Chris is just
average. I just did that for the reaction for Chris, guys. What do you think, man? What's more likely to continue from Jamie's question, the offense or the defense? I guess
neither.
Defense giving up.
Neither. For one, look at how many yards were actually, given up in the fourth quarter. Do I think Weber is going to have phenomenal 600-yard games every game? No, they put up almost 450 yards last year with a horrible offense against Idaho State. It's not like they're battling some juggernaut defensive team. Weber State is not going to have 600 yards ever again. They're also not going to give up 450 yards ever again this season. I don't think we're going to see either. I think we're going to see the typical Weber State team who has a slightly better offense than last year, maybe a slightly I'm just going to say the same defense as last year because how many of those yards, how many of those points were scored in garbage time because the whole fourth quarter was garbage time against Weber State this last week. It was 42-7 going into the fourth, and Idaho State only had one big play in the whole first 3 quarters.
Good. There you go. I think Weber looks good. That quarterback, maybe they find the QB position, man, and maybe things have changed around. Okay, Kyler, it's going right back to you. Ready? Who do you ultimately blame for that horrible botched field goal call in the Idaho Eastern game? The official, the Kibbe Dome, or both? Adam Peterson wants to know, man. Who do you blame for that?
Neither. The only person I'm blaming is Tubbs at the Club because before they got Montucky sponsored, the Kibbe Dome didn't have enough money to buy these refs off. Now look at that. See, they got the Montucky money. So now they're being able to buy off refs. They're able to say, hey, we're not going to even put cameras up high because we know what's going to happen. Eastern Washington, the kicker's got a cannon for a leg where he's going to kick it up to the uprights. So you know what? It's all Tubbs at the Club's fault. No, but realistically, it's everyone's fault. That was the worst thing I've ever seen where a ref's not even paying attention. And then the Kibbe Dome, you can blame SWX all you want. You don't even have a GoPro on the top anywhere where you can say, hey guys, look at this. Let me text you this video of a kick not going through the upright. No, it's everyone's fault. It's Tubbs at the Club's fault. It's the ref's fault. It's SWX. It's the Kibbe Dome's fault. It's Idaho's fault. It's freaking Boise State's fault. It's Potato's fault. It's everything about that whole shithole of a state's fault.
Kyler and Eastern going down to Idaho and unleashing a little bit of anger.
But hey, Chris, what did I say before we jumped on this podcast? Even Eastern didn't want to win that game.
No. But hey, I just want to say 3 different conferences, 42 games that scoreboard has been there, and then nobody else has had an issue with it. So that is 100%. That is the ref's fault.
You haven't had a real rival until Eastern, and now you want to knock them down, and you got that Montucky money. It's the Montucky money.
Hey, at the end of the day, man, yeah, I get the camera angle thing sucks. One, it's because of COVID. They're not allowing people onto the field to film. So, and yes, SWX did the entire broadcast. So don't blame it on Idaho. Don't blame it on the Kibbe Dome. Blame it on the Big Sky officials and COVID.
I'm just giving you all a hard time. It's totally the rest.
And Boise State. That was the one truth.
And Boise State.
And shout out Kelsey and Chris, and we saw all the photos of you guys together at that game. Super cool for admins to get together. Any FCS fans that post on our page, that's the best part of the page. They'll post got to meet this fan, got to meet this person, got to meet this family and their kids. It doesn't matter at football games. That's the coolest thing about our page and our community. So glad you guys had a good time. Congratulations on the win, Chris. So Matt Olson, my man, gave him the shout out in the beginning. He said, Matt Frazee, I can't not ask a Fighting Hawk question, right? With the short week with a game Thursday night, who does it benefit more, UND or USD? Offense or defense have the advantage? Question. I believe UND's run game will dominate the second half, and their defense with blitz packages will cause pressure and turnovers. Matt Olson, I've been saying this the whole time. Illinois State, their ranking blew me away. I never understood that. Okay, your entire running back offense is gone with what could have been the rookie of the year. Your quarterback is gone. You graduated a bunch of folks. I did not understand the Illinois State hype at all. I think they're going to have a really rough year. So I don't think they're a quality team. Number 7 was mind-blowing to me. So USD beating them to me is just 2 bad teams facing off, and one of the worser, holy moly, the Cherry Coke's getting to me. One of the worst teams got the best of the other worst team. So I think you guys crush USD. And if you don't, that's going to drop me heavily in terms of how I think about you currently for UND and what they're performing. But I don't see it happening. I think USD is a bad squad that just beat another bad squad. So, guys, just a one-word answer here from Mr. Matt Style. He wants to know, will there be one at-large spot that goes to a non-Power 3 member? Not CAA, not Big Sky, and not Missouri Valley. Will there be an at-large spot, which there's now 6 of them, going to a non-Power 3 member? I am going to buy that. I'm going to say that there will be a non-Power 3 at large. Kyler, what do you think?
2 at larges from non-Big 3.
Ooh,
squads.
There you go. He's going to buy it as well. What do you think, Chris?
Buy, and it'll be the Southland, probably Nichols and Sam Houston.
How many condos are you putting on this?
I got all
True.
3 of my condos back. So I think I'm going to, after the stressful week, I'll hold off on condos for the week.
You'll hold on to the real estate. Jamie, buy or sell that we're going to have a non-Power 3 member as an at-large.
Oh, solid buy. You're going to have 2 Southland teams. You're going to have 2 OVC teams. The rest are coming from the Big 3. Mark it down. 1 from the Big South. Sorry, guys. It's going to be the winner of Monmouth or Kennesaw State. Or no, it's going to be Robert Morris. Did you see how they played? Come on. Robert Morris,
Top 25
guys. Big
team.
South.
Top 25 team.
That's right.
Throw him in there. Robert Morris is coming. All right, guys. So final question from Adam Willie. So spring is almost here. You know, we answer all and random questions, guys. So spring's almost here. What is your favorite thing to do in the spring? And what is your favorite part of the spring? Adam, I'm from North Dakota. Favorite part is that the snow starts to melt. I also get to laugh every spring because I look on the calendar and it says first day of spring and there's 15 feet of snow outside my door. So that's always hilarious. And my favorite thing to do is to do NFL mock draft simulators for like 60 straight days before the NFL draft because it's my favorite sporting event on the planet. So, Kyler, what's your favorite thing about the spring, my man?
I've lived in the South, Arizona, and now Texas the last 7-8 years. There's no such thing as spring. It goes summer, maybe 1 week of shitty weather, summer. So there's no spring.
Living the dream. Chris, what do you got, my man?
Says the guy who just lost power for a week, but whatever.
One shitty week.
He couldn't poop last podcast. He said he couldn't poop.
Yeah, last time we talked to you, you hadn't pooped in days.
That was that one shitty week of weather. Now it's summer again.
March Madness, Mariners baseball, and the Masters, baby.
Ooh,
Right.
a tradition unlike any other.
Hello, my friends.
Go Kingdom.
A tradition unlike any other may be having Jamie Williams joining podcasts more often because he has been outstanding. Jamie, what do you think about the spring out there in Virginia? And what is your favorite part about it, man?
Oh, my favorite part has got to be taking Zyrtec every night with all these allergies and all this crap that goes on in Virginia. If there's an allergen, it is here. We have the highest pollen count in the nation. You know, just be ready to take some Zyrtec if you come to Virginia in the spring. But it gets nice. It's time to put the garden. It's time to, like Chris said, March Madness is coming. Baseball, spring training. It's time to, you know, start the baseball season. Hey, maybe one of these years we'll get back to a ball game. Braves fan here, so they're coming back, bouncing back. Should have beat the damn Dodgers last year, but didn't happen. So more to look forward to. So, hey, and this year we've got the FCS playoffs, baby.
Nothing better.
Oh.
And as long as
Tradition, unlike any other.
Playoffs done.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a tough year for everybody. So as long as you got your family, your health, and everything else, hopefully everything's going good for the spring and remaining seasons, guys. Hey, a little bit of shout outs as we come up to the end of our podcast here. Matt Style, there was a big second part of your question. Bruce Edmondson, Ed Keynes, Joshua Hoffman, who messaged me. You still get the shout outs. We just did not have time for your guys' questions. So we just kind of had to be a little picky and choosy. We hit most of them. We still appreciate you guys. Hit us on the questions on the post next week, and we'll hopefully get to you guys. We'll get some betting lines put out later on the page by Chris. No problem, as it's a little bit too early here on a Monday night to do those. But last thing, guys, here before we roll out is going to be our game of the week. And I just always pick this randomly. And I kind of think it's pretty simple. 2 numbers that are next to each other. We'll go number 13, Albany, and number 14, New Hampshire. So this is tough for me because I love the undercuffler. I love him. I think I own a half Great Dane. So like Kyler said, I'm not going to use any facts here. This is the Matt Frazee way. Just use emotion and random crap to make your decision. But I will take the program of New Hampshire because they had a rough year last year. So now everybody thinks they're gone, even though programs have little down years and then they bounce back. So give me the program, New Hampshire. I'll take them 28 to, give me something weird, 19, 28-19. Kyler, what do you think, man? Albany, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I always pick what Matthew Frazee does because he is always right. So I'm picking the program of New Hampshire over Albany, 28-19.
Oh, you're so nice. That means I'm going to get one right. Kyler picked the same thing as me.
I got
Chris,
you.
what do you got, man?
As we discussed last week, Mr. Frazee, I'm a big Albany coin holder.
Yeah.
Danes and undercuffler, not close.
Ooh. You got a score you want to attach there for your Danes?
28-6.
Dang. All right, Jamie, you're from the CAA. You know the country, you know those teams, and it's a big time matchup. That winner probably goes in the top 10. What do you think?
Before I give my prediction, I just want to just shout out to Coach Sean McConnell of New Hampshire, coming back after fighting cancer and beating cancer last year. He is back. Ricky Santos did a phenomenal job, even though Ricky Santos gave me nightmares when he was actually their quarterback. So I personally picked New Hampshire to win the CAA North. Everybody else is picking Villanova. I picked New Hampshire. Max Brosmer, pretty good quarterback. Probably not the best quarterback in this game. Jeff Undercuffler would have won the Jerry Rice Award last year, except for this kid that, what's his name? Lanch, what's his name? For whoever.
Zeb Noland.
Oh, that guy. So I'm going to take New Hampshire 27, Albany 24 in a close game. Almost an elimination game because Villanova is still hanging out for both of those teams.
Man, I went against you guys on like everything today.
Yeah, and then you turn out right. That's a good way to do it.
You lose every once in a while, as North Dakota State found out. So hopefully that's not me this week.
Woo!
This is mind-blowing. From the first time since 2011, if you started 2011 and now, we now have one more loss in championships. So there you go.
A quick
program.
Quick thing we discussed on earlier. I just want to run by Fans Nation before you have all week to sit with this. When was the last time North Dakota and South Dakota won and South Dakota State and North Dakota State lost?
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's wrap this puppy up.
Yeah. D2 days, because USD and UND towards the end of there in 2000s were the dominators, but they stayed at the lower level while we made the jump, and that gave us recruiting advantages. Actually kind of swapped things around based off of what it was late 90s, early 2000s. So enough of the history lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Whether you're listening in your car or at home, we really appreciate you. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Give us a rating if you feel like it. Join our Facebook page, which is the more important thing. That's at FCS Fans Nation. You will be there. We'll have game threads. We have pick'em challenges. We'll have a playoff challenge at the end. It's a great community of people who aren't going to just throw personal attacks at you. We just want to talk FCS football and have a good time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us, of course, and a big shout out and a thank you to Jamie Williams, as Duke Dog has been busy with life. We will definitely be having you back, Jamie. We really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts here as we roll out, my man?
Thanks for having me, guys. And all I will sign off will say is go Dukes, #1 team in the FCS as of right now. Let's go. See you in Frisco.
There you go. You get to own it. And then we will have some Kyler shots with you in the tailgate, just like we did last year. Gentlemen, enjoy those drinks. Stay safe, everybody. Appreciate you listening, and have a good day, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever. FCS Fans Nation, enjoy this upcoming week. We'll see you next time. Boom.